Good morning, and welcome to readers of AU Manufacturing News and members of the Australian Manufacturing Forum LinkedIn group. I'm Peter Roberts, and I'm your host today for our latest webinar, Lessons in Resilience. Shortly, I'll moderate a live roundtable discussion of 4 Australian manufacturing leaders to understand how they have navigated the ups and the many downs that are the reality of being a manufacturer in Australia today. The webinar will be available online at AU Manufacturing after the event if you want to share it with colleagues. But first, I want to introduce our sponsor, Epicor Enterprise Software, whose support made this event possible. Epicor is a leader in the mid-tier manufacturing space. It has over 50 years of experience, 2,300 customers, and 2.3 million users daily worldwide. Epicor's solutions are designed to help manufacturers to supercharge efficiency, turn data into action, and help you stand out from the competition. Epicor also offers a cloud-based platform, Kinetic, a solution with embedded learning that helps you maximize profitability with real-time business intelligence. Today's topic is lessons in resilience. If there's a single word that describes Australian manufacturers, it is resilient. Over decades, we've seen manufacturers navigate economic ups and downs, changes in consumer demand, technology shifts, not to mention hostile policymaking and massive global structural shifts. It's been a very bumpy ride, and many have not survived. But one thing is for sure, those who have survived and prospered in Australia, well, they must be doing a lot of things right. Today, we brought together a group of people that have done a lot of things right, and we're going to find out some of their secrets. Let me introduce our panelists. The first of our manufacturing leaders is Jeff Wadsworth, General Manager of Manufacturing of Russell Mineral Equipment. RME produces huge automated machines, giant robots really, that reach into mine site crushing mills to remove and replace their linings, a dangerous and dirty job for humans. These machines weigh tons, but they're also complex electronic systems. Second is Wayne Hoffman, CEO of electronics manufacturer Entech Electronics. Entech makes printed circuit boards and electronic sub-assemblies in Adelaide, Shenzhen, China, and a soon-to-be-open factory in Penang, Malaysia. Our third speaker is Sanya Minavini, Information Systems Manager of Industrial Fluid and Gas Control Company, Klinger Australia. Klinger makes complex equipment for the mining industry, and that goes right down to simple gaskets, where a failure can cripple a mineral processing operation. And finally, we'll hear from Ian McDonald, Director, Solution Engineers, ANZ at Epicor. Ian has worked in industry for many years, but he's also been immersed in dozens, if not hundreds, of manufacturing companies and seen and advised on how they can future-proof their businesses. Ian McDonald, Epicor, I'd like to turn to you first. So Ian, you've seen the inner workings of numerous Australian manufacturing companies. Is resilience one of the things that customers in Australia are asking for?
Yes, good morning, Peter. Absolutely. We're certainly seeing that at the moment. The requirements that people are asking for these days are not just the process of efficiency and so forth that people have asked for decades. I'm a production engineer. We've always spoken about process efficiency and so forth. What people are asking for now is ways to actually do this in a much more timely manner. And so we're seeing that is part of resiliency. You still have to be running a business which is providing a unique service, which is providing what people need, but you also have to be really ready to change and have that management drive and leadership to do that. We're seeing that a lot more these days.
So management software has changed, seeing as the requirements have changed?
Management software has certainly changed in that what we're really about now is bringing that contextual information, contextual intelligence, even with AI, and bringing that when people need it, allowing them to make quick decisions with live information and actually bend and change and meet customer requirements on a much more timely manner than in the past. It's still about being a system of record, of course, but it's also about being a system of insight and then action.
So can you look into the future with this technology, Ian?
We can. What we're really seeing in the future is that AI is going to be a lot more fundamental part of an ERP system. ERP is not really the future of ERP anymore, if that makes sense. AI is actually the future of ERP, and this will just become an integral part of business operations, a seamless part of the business technology, really. with margins being very tight, obviously for resilience, you need a way to use that information and make the tough decisions quickly and accurately. So really what we're focusing on, what other vendors are also focusing on, to be honest, is bringing AI into the system and having useful use cases that actually look at manufacturers' requirements and help them do what they need to do quickly and easily. So the system isn't just there to provide the record, it's actually there to prompt users what they need to do and actually then follow through those processes. That's what we're going to see a lot more of.
And I think when we were talking before, you mentioned scenario planning is also already a capability, really.
Scenario planning, certainly. So if we talk about scenarios around what if scheduling, about what I need to do to move manufacturing into a different plant, use different raw materials, that sort of stuff. What is the most efficient way to meet the needs of a customer? Do I do it in this site? Do we do it in the other site? If I do it in that site, what's it going to do with the timing and the cost and the transport and all that sort of stuff? This is the information that, of course, the system has, but what we're looking at doing more going forward is bringing that to the forefront and making it very easy for the human to do what they do, which is make the decision, but present them with the information they need to do that.
Thanks, Ian. Well, that's a very good segue to Wayne Hoffman of Entech Electronics. Wayne, you've got multiple sites. In fact, you're about to open a new site in Penang imminently, and you're doubling the size of your operation in Adelaide in a new factory. So how do you manage the multiple factories? How do you knit them together into a coherent business?
Yeah, a great question, and hello to all of our viewers. The answer to that is with people. I mean, they're obviously the key to our business and pretty much any business that's service based. But those people have to be supported and as Ian said, in the way that helps them make the best decisions with the most pertinent information. Apart from that, we have one ERP system across the whole business, which is at this point in time Epicor, about to be upgraded to Kinetic. And the other thing we do across all of our facilities is we have common machinery. So our manufacturing platforms are the same wherever you go. It makes decision making comes down to for us, we don't need to tell a customer that they have to make it in Penang or they have to make it in Adelaide or they have to make it in China. It's actually an option. We're, as far as we know, the only manufacturer who says you tool up with us once and we can move your product wherever you want it to be manufactured, and you don't pay for it to be tooled up again. So that's a key advantage for us. One of those advantages comes through the use of Epicor. So our bills of materials, as we said, our what if planning, our scheduling is a key part of Epicor for us. Record keeping, the finance department would love to tell you that it's all about them. The reality is it's not for us. We're a manufacturer, and how we make a product, how we deliver a product, how we schedule a product, and the commitments we make to clients and keeping them is what keeps customers coming back, not the quality of the invoice we send them. So whilst we have to keep all those records, the big thing for us is really being able to, I guess, flex the company in whichever way we want, and having an ERP system that will do that for us, along with our machinery, along with our people, is key to our resilience in terms of our ability to do whatever it is the customer requires in whatever environment we find ourselves.
So you mentioned people a few times there, but people are different in Adelaide to Shenzhen and to Penang. So how do you knit the people together?
So people are knit together basically either by common skill sets. So they speak a language which is engineering or mathematics or production or whatever it is. It's not necessarily Mandarin or English or trying to think. There's probably those two options in Malaysia as well, to be honest. It really is the language of production. So we cross-train our employees. So key staff in Adelaide go regularly to China and vice versa. And when I say key staff, I mean on the right down to the manufacturing floor. So production managers, assistants, machinery maintenance, they're all familiar with each plant, and soon to be Penang as well, which will be completely trained by the QA staff and the manufacturing staff in Adelaide, and skilled up in terms of machine maintenance and the behind the scene things that have to happen from our China plant. So it really is one team, if you like. People get paid differently based on where they work, but at the end of the day, and that's got to be commensurate with the wages in their country. But at the end of the day, it's one team.
Thanks, Wayne. So tell me, going back to the subject of the webinar, what is resilience to Entech and yourself?
I think if we were to define resilience, it's a word that gets thrown around a little bit, to be honest, particularly in this post-COVID type environment we find ourselves. But for us, resilience is being able to keep doing what we're doing for our customers, regardless of what is happening around us. So, in other words, setting our sails to the wind and keeping on sailing if the wind stops. So, that's what it really means for us. And we've seen many different issues in the electronics market, not the least of which prior to and then through COVID with the semiconductor business, but that was only one aspect of our supply chain and sourcing that became a problem. Just purely logistics of getting things moved around the world was such a huge problem through that period of time. And having boots on the ground in all of those areas actually allowed us to be far more resilient than our competitors.
Now, you're a management buyout. In 2014, you took the company over, Wayne, with your partners. What's been the biggest challenge? And I understand it was financial, if I can put that to you in that time.
So just clarify that. The MBO was 2019, but the financial issues we had were, definitely in 2014, started in 2013. Myself and Jason and Dave were the three that own Entech. We actually took over running the business in 2009. So we'd been in the business, well, we're all hatched here, basically. I think between the three of us, we've got just over 100 years of manufacturing experience. But the reality was in 2013-14, the banks in Australia took a very fast changing opinion of manufacturing in terms of its risk profile, and that resulted in us finding ourselves very quickly needing to find millions of dollars that the bank would no longer fund in terms of our front end materials and work in progress. That took a lot of working through, and it also made us think a lot more about our financial position. And exactly how at that point in time we weren't resilient to a financial issue, particularly within our supply chain. So if what we saw in COVID had happened at 2014, Entech may well not have been around, just because of the exposure we already had and then the exposure that COVID caused. So in some ways it was a great wake up for us. It made us a lot more financially resilient coming into COVID. And we certainly saw some competitors really, really struggle through that period where we were able to extend credit and to do things with customers that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to either.
Thanks, Wayne. I'd like to turn now to Sanja Minavini from Klinger Australia over in Perth. Hello, Sanja. What is resilience to Klinger Australia?
It's pretty much similar what Wayne explained. Being a manufacturer in Australia is difficult. It has its challenges from costing point of view, labour point of view, but also we're very far from everyone else. So, you know, most of our suppliers are European companies, and they're, you know, quite a you know, away from us. So the planning that's involved in having the raw materials available, and especially, you know, during COVID, for us, there is no just in time. We actually have to have, you know, adequate stock, if not overstock, of raw materials, because things during COVID took, you know, 9 to 12 months. But even after COVID, you know, you're looking 3 to 6 months. I mean, it's getting better, but then you have the shipping costs. Then you have delays from the suppliers, because now they're, you know, overwhelmed with with demand. So for us, it's about the supply chain, how we can, you know, make it better with our tools and systems that we have in place. If we can, how can we order on time, and how much to order? You know, that is always a challenge. Then the labour, how do we overcome, you know, labour? We're losing basically skilled workers to FIFO, to mine sites, especially here in Perth, Western Australia. We're getting, you know, skilled welders or fabricators, and then when the opportunity arises, you know, they move up north to Pilbara, you know. So it's about getting people engaged, upskilling them, you know, basically making them part of a team, not just, you know, a shop floor, but the big picture, where the company's heading.
So tell us a little bit about your customers and what products they want from you, and why are they so critical? Yeah,
so basically we manufacture and distribute sealing products, so mainly products for gas and fluid, industrial gas and fluids. So if you can picture any, you know, a refinery, any processing, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's mineral processing, chemical processing, pulp and paper, energy companies, they all need, you know, to seal within their processing, you know, facilities. So they need to seal the flanges, you know, the pipe. I'll make it a little bit layman terms so people understand the criticality of these products and the applications that are used in. So they're used in high pressure, high temperature, you know, corrosive environments, and the quality that and the service that we offer to our customers is, you know, second to none. And being in such a dynamic, fast-paced industry, having our customers basically demand things right now or yesterday, we have to, you know, bring all that together and, you know, supply the right product, the right quantity, on time, basically perfect every time. They demand the perfection every time, yes.
So technology helps you navigate that problem?
Of course. So our journey began, you know, 7 years ago when we implemented Epicor. So quite a mature ERP system that we have at the moment, and we are always fine-tuning and upgrading and, you know, leveraging on the new features of Epicor ERP. In addition to that, we also have other systems that are heavily integrated with Epicor, basically making our, you know, Epicor ERP single source of truth.
Thanks, Sanya. Jeff Wadsworth of Russell Mineral Equipment, I'd like to turn to you now. Could you tell us a little bit, first of all, about your product and how you've come to make such a beast?
Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everyone. Peter touched on, we have quite a unique product here at RME. We fundamentally provide a piece of equipment for maintenance activity inside a mill at a comminution circuit. There's sacrificial liners to protect the mill shell. Those need to be replaced on a regular basis. So our piece of equipment is the piece that has improved safety and performance of relining activity. When Russell Mineral Equipment first started making these machines, they would lift a 1,500 kilo liner. As the industry adopted liner placement, we're now making machines over 8 ton. So it's revolutionised the way customers can get performance out of their plants. To give you an idea, a mill can be generating anywhere from $20,000 to $250,000 worth of revenue an hour. So getting those liners replaced as quickly as possible has significant financial benefit for customers. I know one of our customers over in South America, one of the largest copper generating regions in the world, it's the second most important piece of equipment during a reline to them. So that's how important they place on the things we make.
So these machines have 3,000 to 4,000 parts, which is an extraordinarily large number.
Yep.
Of all sorts of complexity. You make some of them yourself, and you have an extended supply chain. How are you coordinating all this?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Peter. Good question. It's one of the biggest challenges we have and we face. Those parts can range from a simple electronic clip all the way through to a complex piece of hydraulic equipment that we're getting from overseas. One of the challenges as well is no customer's mill and concentrator plant is the same usually. So each one of those machines is designed to be unique. So one of the ways you would traditionally do things, and Sanjay touched on that a bit earlier, is inventory. We don't have the luxury of that in a lot of cases because the thing we're making for you is unique to you as a customer, especially around the unique dimensions of your concentrator plant. So that creates a real challenge for us. To go back and answer your question, the way we do that and what we've been focused on recently is to really strengthen the quality of relationship with our vendors. So I'm not talking necessarily about a contract. I'm not necessarily talking about here's your purchase order and please deliver. It's really reaching down inside their organisation and connecting it to ours. So if we're growing or if we're changing the way we do things, or we want to make sure that our vendors are able to deliver us what we need when we need it, they've got to know what we're doing. They've got to be an extension of our organisation. So just like we would treat our internal capabilities, and we'd be sitting there doing lots of planning activities and making sure they're ready to go, we're making sure that certain types of vendors are very well connected to what RME is doing, so they're able to support us. And that's through demand planning, that's through vendor management, that's meeting with them regularly, making sure they're comfortable that they're contracted with RME. We've got vendors that have worked with RME for its entire 40-year history. So, but it's strengthening that connection to what are we actually doing and what does it mean for you as a vendor, not just here's a purchase order, good luck.
When I asked you a question previously about resilience, you mentioned that you had 5 pillars that supported your business. Could you describe those?
Yep. So I think you've got to take a balanced approach. So you've got to be working on your operational excellence. It's things like lean, all the productivity, lean manufacturing, all those types of things that we do. It's supply chain excellence. So I touched on that a little bit earlier. It's been one of our focuses. Got to be investing with your people, so training, leadership. You've got to be investing in modern factories. So upgrading your equipment, Industry 4.0, connected equipment. How do we evolve our practices from where we are today to where we need to be in the future? And finally, systems. So have you got resilient systems that will carry you through to the future? Do you have all the ERPs, engineering, PLMs? Do you have your HR systems? Do you have what you need to take your business forward as well from a system point of view? And I think if you forget one of those, you might regret it.
Now, you mentioned lean there. So what is lean to you? It's another word thrown around a lot.
It's a good question. It is thrown around a lot. It often gets tied in with lean manufacturing. It's all about manufacturing, but I have a different view, and I think Toyota did as well. This isn't a system they created in 5 minutes. I think it's if I correct myself, I think it's something they created over 30 years. And I think it's a philosophy about how you run your organisation. It's about making sure that you're doing things that are value added. If a customer is prepared to pay for what you're doing, then you're going to be doing well. And it's about focusing on the things that a customer isn't prepared to pay for. You still might need to do them. But how do you do them in a way that's also efficient? I think businesses can focus solely on that value adding piece and investing in that, which is important. But you've also got to be looking at your waste/non-value added time and managing and looking at how you can improve that as well. And I think quite simply, the Lean House, if you've ever seen it, talks about at the top, if you've got the lowest cost product at the shortest lead time at the highest quality of customers are prepared to pay for, you're in a good spot. And I think if you take that approach, then you're going a long way to winning. And that's, to me, what Lean's about.
So Jeff Wadsworth is manufacturing one-off products for individual customers. Wayne, at Entech, could I ask you? I think we were talking before about how you manage volume. Do you manufacture in China? Do you manufacture in soon to be Penang? Do we ever manufacture in large scale in Adelaide, or is it small scale?
Great question, thank you. I think, as I mentioned to you earlier, the largest production we've ever done is actually in our Adelaide plant, and it was through COVID. So we were manufacturing, they were called e-test strips for a company called Illume, part of a military contract they had with the US Department of Defense, and we were making 1 million a month of that particular product. And we ran the numbers doing it here in Australia. We offered to make it in China as well. And it turned out that the total cost difference between the two was 3%. So to be clear, that was a fully automated production environment. So minimal amount of human interaction with even the raw materials into the machines. So typically that's not atypical of what we do. So typically volume production, it tends to be for cost sensitive markets. And keep in mind, we're 100% contract manufacturer. We don't make our own products. So everything we make is bespoke. Like we were saying, the luxury of stock is not something we have. It's all, we purchase 2 orders. Occasionally we'll have a customer who says, here's a supply agreement, which no doubt we'll argue about for a long time, about whose liabilities are where, and then we may get visibility for 6 or 9 months, which is a great thing in electronics now. Through COVID, it was 24 months. It was just insane through the Silicon Valley of death, as we all called it. So typically volume manufacturing would end up in a low-cost plant driven by the expectation of the end market. So it tends to be a lower margin product, hence China, or in the case of high-volume products that have a home in the US or another tariff-driven country, China's not the site of preference, which is sort of was one of the things that's driven our move or our creation of the Penang plant. That being said, with the we all call it the Trump tax, but the reality is it's the US tax. Biden did nothing but increase it. We can actually make things in Australia and ship them to the US cheaper in terms of electronics, because they typically are very high in terms of the parts that are on the board versus the labour that goes into the product. Typically, we can make it in Australia and deliver it into the US cheaper because of the tariff. So having the option of Penang, to be clear though, all that does is overprice us for a volume product. People are going to South America, people are going to Thailand, wherever, Philippines. For a number of reasons, we chose Penang. and we'll be able to deliver into that market. We're seeing an increased appetite for the same diversity of supply chain from Europe, which has actually surprised us. Traditionally, Europe has been very much Asian supply chain, and particularly China. So, yeah.
Ian McDonald, if I can turn to you on this question of large volume, small volume. Can we make large volumes in this region? When do we make small? Who's doing well in what volumes?
Yeah, great question. That actually leads on really well from what Wayne was saying there. It's ringing a lot of bells with me too, that we actually have customers, like obviously Wayne, but also people like Systema Plastics that make, the containers with the blue clips on that everyone knows. They're actually selling into the global market from their big mega factory in Auckland, just near the airport. They're actually shipping about 10 40-foot containers a day out of there. And they're doing that and being competitive globally. And they're doing that through being very efficient and monitoring the inputs and the outputs, monitoring every single machine. They've got 200 or so plastic injection molding machines on their shop floor that will fit. They always like to say 8 A380s on the production floor. So they're doing it to scale. And they're doing it at a competitive price because they're using robotics. They're using monitoring across the whole process. They've got global scale on their raw materials and so forth. So you can absolutely do it efficiently. The other end of that, we can also do things at a lower scale, again, by doing it efficiently. That is certainly a market for Australia and New Zealand as well, where it doesn't make sense to be importing from China some of the smaller volume, high technology, specialist type products. So it makes a lot of sense to do that in region, in a modern technology, advanced type factory. So we're seeing both extents there. What's not there though is the old days of the low quality metal beating sort of stuff. That's the sort of stuff that's gone to China.
I think you mentioned a low volume manufacturer in Australia that you might want to talk about.
Look, we've got lots of low volume manufacturers.
Electro-optic systems you were talking about?
Oh, electro-optics, absolutely. Yeah. So they're a specialist defense manufacturer, one of the largest in Australia, certainly of Australian-owned ones. That's technology which is developed in Australia. It's made in Australia, in Canberra. That's sold to militaries around the world. And it's technology which is not rivaled by things in other regions. And for example, a lot of their technology is getting sold off into Ukraine at the moment. It's very successful in those scenarios, and they're doing that by having a technology which they have developed, but they're also manufacturing in a very, very competitive way, and they're doing that locally.
Thanks, Ian. Jeff Wadsworth, you have an ERP system, not an Epicor system, which is fine. How are you using that to navigate the future?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good question. We've been on the digital journey for a couple of years now, so we are using our ERP system to think about how do we connect better into the future. So it's been a case of get in and let's get it working, and let's get ourselves into a position where that classic, if we can print an invoice on the first day, we've done well. So we've done that. It's been 12-18 months now, and the next step is really to think about how do we leverage the organization off the back of these tools. What are the things that we're missing? So it's been about, hey, let's get into the cloud, let's digitalize, let's do that. So what are we missing? What do we need to support our cohort moving forward? And we're also starting to find opportunities to connect equipment to these systems that then helps us be more productive in the future as well. So it is that industry 4.0. It's that robots, that's automation, and the ERP systems of today seem to support that quite well, is our observation, and the way they're designed. So that's really the journey we're on, Peter.
So as far as navigating the future and being resilient into the future, I know you're developing multiple ways to deliver value to customers. Could you talk about that?
Yep, I think one of the other sort of lean principles that businesses need to consider and understand is value streams. So, and they'll be different for everyone, and they can be defined in different ways. So there's no right or wrong way. But what it helps you understand is it forces your organisation to be, I think, when people think resilient and those sort of things, people can often think about my department and what do I need to do. But the simple truth of it is there isn't a single department of business I've come across that can do everything on their own. They need, it's about the collection of departments and processes that deliver values to customers. So taking that value stream approach to understand your organisation, to understand its performance, there's lots of literature and things you can look at to help do that. It also gives you some resilience. So you might have some parts of your organisation going well. You might be subject to market conditions in another that are outside of your control, and it allows you to be flexible with your workforce. It allows you to be resilient from that point of view. And it also gives you a couple of different ways to move forward and understand how you can invest in your organisation if you think about it as value streams, not departments. So that's something we've been doing at RME recently.
And of course, you are diversifying your customer base. I know you had mentioned Chile before, so you're in markets all over the world, wherever the customers are.
Yep.
What's about the role of R&D in RME's story in protecting it?
Yeah, great question. One of the things RME has been is a market leader. It's the first to market. So R&D's role is really to take that product that we've got today, a solid base, and work out what is the product of the future. What do customers want? Do they want electronic systems that they can integrate with? Do they want robotic equipment? Do they want to improve their safety result? What is it that's important to customers? What is value to our customers? And together with our product management function, understanding that the role of R&D is to really design new products that again, add customer value in a way that you know how to deliver them. And that's a win-win for both you and your customers.
Thanks, Jeff. Sonia, if I can turn back to you from Klinger Australia. You talked before about one source of truth in your organisation. So how do you access information from that, and who's got access to
pretty
that
much
information?
It's an enterprise level data access, so everyone has access to it. From the front end of the business, beginning with sales, all the way through manufacturing, purchasing, pretty much all the way till the product is shipped to the customer. So it covers all our business processes. Yes, and also there's different levels for management, different levels for supervisors, different levels for operators and users as such. So the whole company is using it. Yeah.
So what's the next step in resilience for you in technology sense?
Mm-hmm. So in addition to obviously having a solid foundation with ERP system, and we're also modernising the plant, investing in a more modern equipment on the shop floor, upskilling workers, also adding, Industry 4.0 technologies such as wireless sensors on the machines, tablets for the operators, Wi-Fi connectivity across the shop floor. That all obviously is collected, the data is collected, and then you have the full transparency and visibility of your equipment uptime, downtime, how you use the machines, how your resources are allocated across the shop floor, and the progress of your jobs, which is something that is, real-time visibility of that is quite powerful, and it kind of demystifies or reduces confusion, whose job is more important, or, we haven't done this, we should be doing that. So it gives you a very, a clear picture of what is happening. And as you can imagine, our manufacturing is quite dynamic. It changes you know, you can change 4 times a day. It's not set in stone. It's quite fast-paced and demanding. So to have that visibility is very important and very useful.
So you have a lot of decisions to make in real time, Sanya.
Yes.
Are you looking at AI?
Yes. So we've already started using AI, you know, with Copilot, with Microsoft. That obviously just helps you with productivity side of things. But with Epicor's new version, they have their own AI embedded, you know, at the enterprise level. So you have those records and those transactions and those tasks and activities that you do in Epicor. The AI will help you find them, you know, run reports, automate tasks. We've seen some great demos at the Epicor Insights recently, and we're very eager to, you know, start using it and see how they will help us, you know, from the basically efficiency and productivity way of working. Yeah.
When we talked before, you gave me an example of workflow assistance there. Can you go through that, please?
Sorry, workflow?
Yes, automating workflow.
Yes, workflows. Okay. So that means any repetitive tasks that you do from day to day. It could be, you know, data entry, entering orders. It could be automating, you know, invoice or statement to a customer. It could be running a report and having it automated. All those little mundane day-to-day, you know, annoying things that someone needs to run or someone needs to check, or even approval process, you know, approving something that goes from one desk to another. All those activities that take time and can be lost. We're trying to also, you know, automate those little administration tasks, data entry, you know, to speed up the process of everything we do.
Thanks, Sanja. Jeff Wadsworth, again, back to you. Next steps in ensuring the resilience of the company. You're looking at automation, robotics, AI?
Yeah, we've just just discussed then, we're trialing Copilot. We've got Workflow Engine on our list, so it was interesting to hear you say that. I'm pretty passionate about that. We've got lots of systems joined together by people doing stuff, so I think that's something that we'll be looking at. How do we support the shop floor? Robots. It's an increasingly difficult environment to get people, and if you want to grow that I think is one of the biggest risks. So yeah, looking at those sort of things right now, Peter, to understand what does RME of the future look like.
Thanks, Jeff. I can turn back to Ian McDonald for a second. We've heard a lot about AI and you know, automation and so on. But I've seen a lot of paper in Australian manufacturers still. Is there still a role for paper?
Look, I'm not one for getting rid of paper if you don't need that information to be in the system and be accessible. The point of putting information in the system is really to make that accessible to everyone, to use that data to help drive decisions. If you're just recording something and you're only going to be audited on that for your ISO certification 6 months down the track, perhaps it's fine in a folder. But where you actually want to utilize that data, that's where I'd suggest you want to be putting it into the system. And that's what ERP systems, that's what paperless organizations where you've got sensors, where you've got touch screens, where you've got live instructions on the shop floor, which actually help you bring people off the street and actually start making them useful. Sonia mentioned the fact that the labour resources are difficult to get and to keep. If you've got AI-driven documentation and work instructions and stuff like that, you can actually enable them a lot more easily. So yes, there's a place for paper for some things, but certainly the move is away from that still.
Thanks. Wayne Hoffman of Entech. You mentioned before that you're a contract manufacturer. Now, the model that I'm more familiar with in your type of business is the design and manufacture. But why did you go to contract manufacturing, and is it more resilient than the design model that you were following before?
No, both are valid business models. For us, so we've always been a contract manufacturer. We intended to diversify into product development, industrial design, electronics design, mechanical design, and we did that for a period of time. Most of it to the defence sector, particularly in support of the through life support for the ASC here in Adelaide, replacing a lot of redundant or obsoleted systems. I mean, the subs are old. there's no other way to say that. But the systems on there are very much state of the art. So, and the only way to do that is by refitting. And every time they do that, something changes, something breaks, and there's a whole industry around supporting the submarine and shipbuilding here in Adelaide. We decided, however, to that for a number of reasons, us being a design house and offering that service was actually in competition to where we saw the incubator of our industry. In other words, the future of our customers was with, the 150 design houses or designers around Australia. And for us to grow as we wanted to, it wasn't going to happen by having, a few design contracts underway that we, at the end of the day, might get to manufacture. What we needed to do was basically stop that. And I remember the board meeting, and we just decided it was over. Took us a while to obviously work through that with our team and people afterwards, but then presenting ourselves to the market in terms of that whole design community as no, we're 100% contract manufacturing. Yes, we understand the design process. Yes, we can add value, and we do, but we want to do it with you, not against you. And we want to show you that by concentrating on our core competency, we can be the best in the ANZ region and worldwide competitive. And it's taken quite some time. We made that decision to stop doing that work in, I want to say 2016. So, we're 8 years post that decision, and we still come up, we go to visit people and say, oh, you guys design stuff. So, no, we don't.
Yeah. You need to advertise, Wayne, obviously.
Oh, something like that, yes.
If I can go back now to Ian, what are the implications of all this for management and workplace skills? And do young people want to work in manufacturing anymore?
Interesting. Yes, I think that young people are really expecting more of the technology that they are used to in their lives with AI and Siri and Cortana and all these sort of speech to text type things that have been around for now a few years, and people are expecting to be there in their daily work life as well. So that's what we're seeing, that people don't really want to work in an organization, young people that is, if they don't have that technology available to them when they're working. That's what we're trying to do as well. We're actually bringing that sort of technology into their daily lives. So you don't have to dive into a system and actually drive every single screen. You've got AI helping you do your job in a proactive way. And actually, if you're doing something like putting in a purchase order, maybe you've got a problem with that order, the system can then suggest to you, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to create some orders on a different supplier? And would you like to send the emails and do this sort of stuff? So this is the sort of thing that I believe younger people are now expecting. And that's the way that certainly business systems, ERP systems of the future are going.
Thanks, Ian. With that, we're coming to a close of our webinar today, Lessons in Resilience. We've heard a lot. We heard from a manufacturer of complex mineral processing equipment, Russell Mineral Equipment. We heard from a fast-growing circuit board and electronics manufacturer, Entech Electronics. We heard from Klinger Australia that manages a global supply chain of critical industrial components. I'd like to return it again to Ian, though, to conclude. What have we learned today, Ian, and how can companies make their own businesses resilient to external shocks?
Yep, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I guess what we're really beginning to see is that everyone's starting to realize that what we call cognitive ERP with AI and even with Industry 5.0 with AI and social responsibility and so forth, that encompasses, that's really the way of the future. And it really is designed to make businesses more resilient so that they can actually effectively and efficiently improve the way that they deal with customers, improving both customer satisfaction with your product, what you're making, how fast you're delivering it, but also the ease of interaction. Ease of interaction is actually one of those critical factors that determines the stickiness of a customer. Will you be a repeat customer? So that ease is critical. What we're helping people to do is succeed in the current high-cost climate with less hands-on time spent per customer interaction, per sale, by sales staff, by engineering, production, by admin staff, and really do more with the same or sometimes with fewer staff. So it's grow the business, do it more effectively and efficiently, but do that with a system that's going to help you through.
Thanks, Ian. Well, there's nothing left for me to do but to thank our panel, Jeff Wadsworth, Wayne Hoffman, Sonia Minavini, and of course, Ian McDonald. Thanks to Epicor, who made this webinar possible. Do reach out to them and discuss your own digitalisation journey and see how they can help you. So with that, it's goodbye from me, Peter Roberts, and I will close today's meeting. Thank you very much.